Hello, I'm your host, Jeremy Rivera, and this is the Unscripted SEO podcast. I'm here with Colby Wegter, and why don't you give yourself a quick intro, and then we'll be on our way.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeremy. I really appreciate being on. So, I am Colby Wegter. I've been in digital marketing for 12 years, running an agency the last nine, but actually, as of the time of recording, I just started my own venture 2 months ago, and it is actually coaching other agency owners because it turns out they're a pretty under supported group. So, I help six-figure agency owners get to seven figures working 30 hours per week.
Nice, nice. Well, as somebody who has, I myself have worked in house, I've worked at an agency, worked freelance, and worked enterprise. Uh, Definitely know that there's a challenging world when it comes to the business of SEO, and running an agency has so many moving pieces. So when you're trying to help an agency, where's the first problem area you look at, or what framework do you use to approach that part of the SEO?
Yeah, well, I always want to start with the agency owner themselves, right? Because especially the population I serve, they got to six figures pretty much on their own, or they have a really small team or something like that. And so I always want to start with their personal time because anyone who they do employ and even the clients, it's going to trickle down from how they behave, right? It's kind of like if you say, hey, I want you to have really good work-life balance, employees, but then you work 90 hours a week, right? They're just going to follow what you do instead of what you say. So I call it self scale, Jeremy, where it's just like if you can't scale yourself, you're not going to sustainably scale the agency.
No, that's 100% true. I worked at an agency where it was very much every call, every weekly call was like, keep your work life balance. And like, we'd get messages at 3 a.m. from the founder of, hey, look at this. This is on fire. And he caught pneumonia. He caught COVID twice because he was like continuing to work so hard and just like had like a mental breakdown. So it's definitely a case where putting yourself on the line and being invested in what you create makes sense, but also trying to create systems that can support that. So you start with the founder. Like, what are some of those things? Is it just like, hey, you should take a day off, or like where do you go with that? I mean, where do you keep it from being cliche of, hey, relax, man, like let it
Yeah.
go, to actually like something concrete or solid, or a path that you use to get agency owners to let go a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's the toughest thing. Like what you've identified there subliminally is the mentality around it, right? So they're not going to have any favors done for them by having someone say, "Hey, chill out." They've had plenty of people in their life say, "Chill out," and they're still not doing it, right? So systems do need to be, I would say, entered really, really quickly. But the first thing I'm trying to identify is what is the key fear, right? Is the key fear of like, if I stop, this whole thing crumbles? Is it I have feast or famine months? Is it I feel less than when I'm not working? Like, what is the actual thing that's driving this unhealthy behavior? But once we know what that is, then I would say kind of apply some softball systems and, just something that doesn't like freak them out. Like, oh man, I have to fundamentally change as a person, even though they do over the course of the program. But in the beginning, one of the most important things, Jeremy, is like data, right? So like a simple example, I call it calendar curation, which is a fancy way of saying color coding your calendar. Everybody has, you know, their calendar and then different colors for anyone they share with. But either way, it's like their calendar is just one wall of color. Typically, if you have Google Calendar, it's like that light peacock blue or whatever, right? So you don't have any clue if you schedule lunch and you schedule a hair appointment and, a sales meeting and all that sort of stuff. It's just a wall of blue. And so there's no like visual leverage there. And humans at a baseline level are visual creatures. If I say green, you think positive. If I say red, you think warning, right? Like it's not that difficult. Um, and so one of the first things we'll do like day one is just, hey, give me access to your calendar and let's go through it together in 5 minutes of setting up tags and organizing based on four criteria. So if it's red, it's a task and stuff you hate. If it's blue, you keep that as a meeting. If it's green, it's personal, as in like it doesn't move the needle, but it brings you joy. And then yellow is it does move the needle and it might bring you joy, right? And so just by that one exercise alone, every single one of my clients in the beginning has a ton of blue and red and very little green and yellow. right? And so it's all about transitioning from, okay, you're a low leverage human being just on data alone. This isn't my opinion. This is true. Okay. And so, how do we get you from low leverage to high leverage? We start looking at every single one of these low leverage activities, all of these tasks. Do you need to be the chief everything officer and send that email? No, probably not. Let's look at that task and say, can we automate, eliminate, or delegate? Right. So, it's kind of like really, really simple systems, which I pride myself on. Complexity is not necessary. Simplicity is the ultimate complexity. That's what I love about it, right? So the simpler the better, because you can start seeing drastic changes quickly. Like every single client I've ever had has reduced at least 5 hours of working time just in the first week, and that's because of data. They didn't actually fundamentally change how they behave. They just looked at it and was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I don't need that."
So you said it in the middle of that, but I really like that. The automate, delegate, and what was the third one? Eliminate. I like that. That's going to go in a graphic for sure.
I mean, that's as a business owner, I know we can talk SEO in detail, but as a business owner, especially an agency owner, that is like you should be your baseline goal. Like you should be asking that question almost daily: is everything I'm doing right now like almost like a time audit? Can I automate this? Can I eliminate this? Or can I delegate this? And, another simple system I have my clients install is really, it is more mentality, but it's just, I call it the opportunity filter, right? It either needs to bring you joy or move the needle. If it does both of those things, you'll like double and triple down on it. If it doesn't do either of those things, that's a candidate for automating, eliminating, or delegating, right? Like
That makes sense.
admin's a really good one. You probably don't think you're moving the needle when you're like getting the proper paperwork for taxes and stuff, but you have to do it. So you can't eliminate it, but you can absolutely delegate that to like a bookkeeping service for like $40 a month.
Right. So a lot of SEOs like me are freelancers, so it's
Hmm.
a little bit of separation from just straight up agency world. Um, I think what you're saying does seem to have that carryover because it's really a solopreneur. Like if you're a freelance consultant, in some ways you're a one man agency. Um, so do all of these concepts, do some of these concepts carry over? Have you ported any of those ideas from agency to freelance? Or if somebody listening, because I know I've got SEOs who are in all kinds of niches, some founders, some I'm sure there's people who want to do SEO or they're learning. Like, what kind of things as people are taking these things on, do you think that SEO should consider as they kind of make systems for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, man, that's a deep question. I can answer that from like a sales perspective, but let's just talk of like, managing your time and like how you can do that as a solopreneur. Cause I'm a solopreneur now, right? Like I have a staff technically, but they're all VAs. They're all like 1099s, right? And that's something I would highly recommend. Like I have my VAs are a little bit more expensive because they're doing like content editing for me. It's a high level skill. Like editing video is not something, I look at everything kind of through that opportunity filter, right? So I enjoy it, but if I do it, it's not going to move the needle because I don't have the skills. And so therefore it's going to get lost in a sea of stuff like that. But in terms of, an SEO person, I would look at those things and say, how much of this is just like generalists, right? So is it sending the email that you could make a template out of? Is it doing a custom proposal every time? You probably don't need that, right? Like I actually just explored a software a few days ago that I'm like, oh, this cuts down proposal time by a ton, right? And it's free. So it's like one of those things where it's just like, how do I summarize this to answer your question in a really succinct way? I would say, giving that example, I am a firm believer in that 20% of every dollar you make should be in experimentation of moving the brand forward or in making the brand more efficient. Like every single
Interesting.
dollar you make, take
Mhm.
20%, 20 cents off the top of it, because that's already allocated for how am I going to make this business, solopreneur or otherwise, freelancer or otherwise, better next year than it is right now. Because it's very easy to just say, I sell local SEO services. We're going to help you get found in Google Maps. We're going to do a handful of local listings for you, blah, 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 blah. And this is what it costs. And then you have to go fishing every month.
Yeah.
And also, it's not a differentiating factor because anybody can freaking do that now. like just hop it into any of the SEO tools and it's pretty much automated at this point, right? And so if there were systems in mind, because there's a billion of them I could use, those time systems are really good. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed as a freelancer, this is my personal challenge to you. It's like it's your business. So make it how you want. Your business should run by design, not by default, i.e., suited around your life, not your life around the business. No one's forcing you to freelance. So stop feeling bad about it and start making some changes, right? Um, and very few people do that because they fear, oh, if I say no more often, I'll make less money. Warren Buffett said 90% of, or people who are the most successful say no 90% of the time. He said that for a reason. Like Warren Buffett is a billionaire because he made 11 really solid investments in his career. Not 111, not
Right.
1,011. He said no most of the time. And so what I find with, I'm going all over the place, but I'll finish it this way just because it's a really common problem, Jeremy, is like what I find with freelancers and small agencies. I mean, there's like 100,000 agencies in the States, like 60,000 of them are 3 people or less in terms of teams, right? So, um, what I find is that you'll say yes to everything in the beginning, and then you'll also like have a billion different services because the client doesn't understand what SEO is. It's like buying air. And so they'll say, okay, you're just solving all my marketing problems. So you also do social media, right? And you also do email and you also do blah, blah, blah. And the freelancer says yes. It's like, no, you just do SEO. You can add those as bumper offers later, but you will have so much more peace of mind, actual good data to say, how can I scale this? Because if you're doing 7 different services as a freelancer, you have no idea where the scale is. You have no idea where the bottleneck is. You have no idea where the actual profit and revenue is. Like you don't have any of that figured out because you're doing everything. So to stop myself from saying anything else, because I could go on and on and on with that one question, I'm deeply passionate about it, is like the first thing I would say is opportunity filter. Does it bring me joy or move the needle? And how do I get more and more comfortable saying no more often? Because you will actually build a business that you like and can
Yeah.
last for a really, really long time.
Definitely. I mean, disconnecting from like the hourly mentality too of, hey, I'm going to scope this project. I think it'll take 10 hours to do. And then you lock yourself into a contract of like, I'm spending 10 hours. Even if you become more efficient, then you're kind of stuck at a conundrum of, okay, well, I told him it would take 10 hours, but now it's taking 5. Next time, if I'm bidding hourly, it actually only takes me 5. So the more efficient I become, the more I mess with my profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so is the recommendation to step back from hourly projections and quotes and go for more productized deliverables?
It doesn't have to be productized. You can go custom every time. What I would say is that the whole hourly for money thing it's a mentality. It's not even a structure. It's a mentality. It's like, okay, this is what I've seen happen, therefore I must do X. It's like you can be successful in a million different ways, right? And so when I finally got out of hourly based pricing and got into value based pricing, you switch how you market it, right? So what do I mean by value based pricing? I mean, clients don't care at all how many hours it's going to take you to do something. They only care how many hours it's going to take you to do something if it's too many. That's all they care. As in, like, my project's going to take 6 months. I thought it would be 2. You know what I mean? So, what you're honestly selling is a transformation. You're selling, here's where you are. Hopefully, you can't hear my dog in the background. Somebody's at the door.
It's fine.
He's, he's saying, here's where you are. And that's why you're talking to me at all, why you're on the phone or why you're in my DMs or whatever. And here's where you need to be or want to go. So my service is the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. It costs this much. That's for you to determine. Your client has no clue how you execute it. They don't freaking care. So long as it's ethical and follows the rules, they don't care whether it takes you 10 backlinks or 100 backlinks. They just want the result. So if you promise the result, it does not matter how many hours it takes you. Like, and just a perfect example is I promised a client of mine I'm still doing contract work for them because I like made this. I call it. It's part of my program. I call it creating beta offers, where you just like we were already doing SEO at like 4,500 a month, 4,700 a month, and I was like, okay, so SEO is crushing it, right? We know this. This is great. What other problems do you have? And so they would tell me, they were like, oh, well, we'd like to get into more email marketing and a little bit more social media. And we feel like our competitors are producing more than us. I said, okay, if I were to put all of that into a slide deck, not a formal proposal, just like, hey, my spitball of a solution on these things, would you want me to present that? Yes. I put all those together. It's a multi-channel marketing plan, right? Presented it. I put value-based pricing because I said, if I can accomplish all this, their sales are going to go up by 5x so long as they
Mhm.
deliver on their end. So I priced it at 15K. They said yes, right? I just did a month's worth of work for that client in the 4 hours this morning before this call. Should I not charge them 15K because it only took me 4 hours? Because I'm getting better at my job every day? No. All the client cares about is 5x in sales. And they know that marketing is required to get that. So I provided the bridge. It cost them 10,000 more per month. They said yes, because all they care about is the transformation. That's it.
Right. It's the trope of, plumber comes out, charges $500 to come out, and he turns one screw and
Mm-hmm.
leaves. And they're like, I paid you all that money to come out. Well, I knew which screw to turn.
Yeah, it's or the Picasso thing where it's like, somebody goes to him in a bar and says, "Hey, can you draw me this picture on this napkin?" And he does it and he hands it back and he goes, "That'll be $10,000." And she's like, "What? It took you like 10 seconds." He goes, "Yeah, but it took me a lifetime to learn how to do it." Right? So, especially in SEO, this is one caveat for SEO specifically, is you should absolutely be pricing based on the perpetual value you're offering, not just on how long it takes the project to go, because we all know SEO is not like, oh, within 2 months you can turn it off and you're good to go. No, you run it because if you run it for over a year, it is the most cost-effective marketing tool on the planet, right? Still, it's
Yeah.
getting less so, but it still is. Um, and so like for instance, that same client, right? They went from 1K in traffic costs in terms of like SEMrush, right? Like, or I say SEMrush, I know it's SEMrush, whatever, but
Whatever.
1K in traffic costs before we started. Now they're at 10K. So they 10x'd, right? If they were to pay Google directly, it cost them 10 grand every single month to pay for those ads. They're getting all of that organically now. And they
Right.
will keep getting that if I turned it off today for at least another 5, 6 months, which means at the minimum, my perpetual value is 6 months more than what I'm actually charging them for. Right.
And that
So,
that is one of the challenges of SEO too, of like, uh, understanding like potential time frames and the hit or miss factor too, because like if you make 10 blog posts, none of us who are legitimate SEOs can guarantee that all 10 of those are going to be the home run hit that keyword research indicates.
yeah, maybe
One
two
might
of them will
be,
be.
maybe
Maybe.
one will really take off, maybe the second one will do really poorly, but then in 6 months, maybe it's up. Like, and
Mhm.
also taking into the account that usually the number one ranked article in a content topic area has been online at least a year. So then if you're competing for number one ranking and like across the board, it's like 60 to 70% of all number one ranked articles have been online for a year. If you're not giving that expectation to your client of like, hey, we're going to publish this content and we're looking long term, not just today, but long term, what is this article going to do for you? Then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot and putting yourself on unrealistic expectation time of like, okay, well, we published this, it's been 2 months, like there's no results. You know,
Mhm.
I
Oh,
I
yeah.
just had that problem with a client, and they had a site that was like 2 pages, and uh, they had a budget. I'm like, okay, we're investing in the long term. We're going to rebuild the site. We're going to start publishing real content. And after 3 months of paying my bill, he's like, we're not seeing the traction right away on this. I'm like, were you not listening when I said like this is a long-term strategy? Like there's only so much that I can do with like you've given me budget. I'm making as much valuable content as I can in this time frame. It just drives me nuts because he canceled, and then 3 months later he started getting. He still has the analytics,
We
and
got the results. Of
I
course.
see the results. Like, oh, now
Yeah.
he's getting the lead. Now he's got another lead. I'm like, like so. Uh, Sometimes
You've
it's
just
hard
identified
to.
the number one problem anybody has selling SEO. Like I've been in it for 12 years, Jeremy. You know how many times I've heard that, right?
Yes, no,
And
it's
and
constant.
yeah, can I jump on that? Is that
Yeah,
cool?
do it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we're having
So
this conversation. Give me your truth bombs. I'm not here to
yeah,
speak.
no, seriously. I love it because anyone who listens to this will probably have felt that, or if they haven't yet, they will. um, because SEO is slow, right? So that's something I think that kind of set me apart in my career because I would literally tell clients, I've had over 1,100 in my career personally, and I would tell clients in the beginning, like just what everyone else was saying at every other agency, right? Like SEO is great, it's organic, you don't have to pay Google directly, like, you're going to get traction and then it's going to compound and blah, blah, and all that sort of stuff. And I was realizing I'm like, every single thing I'm saying is not in my control. And so
Right.
the moment I started flipping that conversation, we kept clients 2 times as long, 3 times as long. Like my average client retention now personally was like well over 4 years, where our competitors was like 6 to 8 months, right? Because they kept staying in that spot. And so whether this would work for you or not, it worked for me. So I can tell you what I did. But
Yeah.
I explicitly told clients, I said, okay, just because you signed with us, do you think Google cares at all about you? And they would immediately start laughing or say no, or well, obviously not, or whatever. And I said, exactly. I'm not trying to appeal for your business. I'm not a salesperson for your business. I'm not promising any sort of tangible result because I can't ethically do that. What I can tell you is what we're up against. Google changes their algorithm 20 to 30 times a day. That's 5,000 times a year. Google guidelines give us over 200 touch points that we need to factor and keep in mind when we're doing this thing. Because it's always changing and because there's a million things to do, not only can I not promise results, I can't even promise something won't break. I can guarantee something will break, right?
Right.
Because humans are executing this work. What I can promise is how quickly we'll respond to it and how I can be more transparent than any other agency on earth in how we're getting these results, right? So, how would I back that up? I would message them regularly. They would get custom dashboards. Every single time I got him on a conversation in my mind, I was thinking, what's a win? What's something we're watching? What's something that's not going well? Because the problem, too, even if it is going well and people still see their clients leave, why is that? Because clients, many times, small businesses, whatever, they'll come to you and they have no online presence, right? So just by you doing something, they're only going up and to the left. Well, the moment that drops, because it will, they lose their mind and it's your fault. They forget about all the good work that they were completely irrelevant before, and now you've gotten them to some sort of relevance, and they forget it all because it's down. That's not because something went down. It's because the expectation was way the hell off because you only spoke positively the whole time. So we could triple a client's traffic, and I would be like, A, I didn't expect this, so I'm liking what I'm seeing here. But just so you know, I fully expect it to go back down next month. And just by saying that, like as SEO is you are selling magic. You're selling pixie dust. You objectively are not in control of anything you do because deliverables are one thing, but how Google responds is the only thing that matters, and you can't control Google. Google doesn't care about you, right? And so I would like say these in politically correct ways with clients. And so I would say, so this is not my role is not to double your business or guarantee your results or anything like that. My role is to make sure that you're doing enough to play the game. And I have over 10 years of experience in doing so. So when
Mm,
you want to freak out about a keyword dropping, I'm going to be the spiritual guide that says it's all good, right? When you want to freak out about not doubling your revenue, I'm going to be the one who says this will be the most cost effective tool for you 12 months from now, right? And then one final statement I would say with every single client, two actually, because this is getting long. I want people to actually like retain this. Um, is one, I would say, I want you to treat our agency like it's in review every 3 months. So every quarter, I want you looking at other agencies because I don't want you to work with me because you like me. I want you to work with me because you know it works. And what do? They don't look at other agencies. They feel so comfortable with someone who would say something that confident that they're like, okay, whatever, I trust you. You're the expert, right? And then the ultimate confidence is like, hey, my job is to make sure, because you don't understand this. That's why you hired me. Okay. I'm going to show you and educate you as much as I possibly can. All right. I don't want you to guess it's working. I want you to know, and I'll explain it in like a third grade language so you do get it. Right. But there will come a time where you're looking and saying, does this work? And you're going to consult with me and ask what I think. And I will tell you, Scout's honor, if it's not going well, to fire me. I would say this in like the first week.
Yeah.
It's like, you will never have to fire me. I will fire me if it's not going well.
And on
Like,
that going well, is that in terms of like you're doing hitting the deliverables, you've done what you've said you would do or produce what you said you would produce. So how do you rectify some of the concepts of that SEOs get into, which is, looking at like keyword research and doing due diligence of saying, hey, we want to target this particular aspect of the purchase process, and it looks like there's these keywords that has this much volume, and some competitor articles similar to it are getting something like this. Here's how much traffic they're estimated to be getting. So that's in the range of what we could maybe get. So where does the hedging stop, or where does the data lead you to versus, there is that honesty piece of like, at the end of the day, I can't control how Google is going to respond to anything that we publish. I
mhm,
can move, I can spin this wheel and ring this chime. And I know that, like creating content that's thorough, that's well written, similar to other content, or has a unique view tends to do this. And you will usually see, there's a need to get links to articles to rank. So there are formulas that we follow as SEOs to get results. How do you balance that, the sales side conversation of, uh, at the end of the day, I don't control Google, um, but I have these processes that I have found worked, um, versus like, like that up and down cycle, right? Because, like anytime you publish something, yeah, there's algorithm changes and it's going to go down. And sometimes you won't be able to tell why. Like you could be hit by HCU and you genuinely have no real way to reverse engineer exactly which piece of content is now on the standing on your content and cutting off the oxygen. How do you square those two forces within SEO, or the practice of SEO versus like what you're talking about?
yeah, it's a really good question. Again, all these questions are good, Jeremy, where I could answer it like a dozen different ways, but no, not all dozen. Let's see. So what I would say to that is, and kind of, as kind of a bookend to everything I said prior in the conversation, is like, it depends on what relationship you want with a client, right? I, the reason I am now into coaching other agency owners is something, because I had a really good thing with my agency. I left it because I felt like I had no choice. Like I have to help these people. It's kind of like a calling, and I just am answering the call, right? Like almost kicking and screaming, but it's like I know I'm meant to do it. Yeah. But the reason I say that is because so many of these agency owners, they just need somebody else. And I'm answering it this way for a reason. They just need somebody else to kind of, I don't know, move the weeds, because they're weeds high above their head, and just move them and say, you don't have to do it this way. And so I mean that because like when you do the work, you're the expert. The client is hiring you for a reason. And so I don't necessarily see it as my role. When I say show them everything, it is showing them everything in a way that they can digest and understand. Because you can send them an Ahrefs report, you can send them an SEMrush report, you can send them your custom reports from your dashboard. They don't have a freaking clue what they're looking at. Okay. So provided that you want a relationship with your clients, and the reason I coach people is because I was noticing they had so much feast and famine, they kept chasing, and they kept chasing the wrong type of prospects, right? And so they said yes to the wrong people, and then the cycle goes over and over again. You're on a hamster wheel, and it all feels terrible, right? That's the person who gets 4 or 5 years in their SEO freelancer agency, and they're like, why doesn't this feel better? I've been doing this for longer. Shouldn't I be better at this? Right? And if you do, like, fundamentally, whether you're selling SEO or this pen I'm holding or whatever, you are literally trying to understand why that person needs it, right? And so if you don't have an intimate knowledge of what that person needs, you cannot serve them, right? Your service and revenue that that person is paying you is at risk because you don't know. And so, like, having a client Bible is a really good example. Not a client Bible as in like, hey, here's their name, here's what plan they're on, here's, the results, but like, here's what their body language was on the last call. Here's their biggest pain point that they told me on the sales call. Here's when I confirmed it 90 days in, right? Here's something that's been added to their pain points list and all that sort of stuff. Because if I'm looking at, say, Google Analytics, and the client's number one pain point is their phone's not ringing enough, they don't care at all how many people landed on their contact page if their phone's not ringing. So I would be much better off saying, like, acknowledging it, not showing it at all, but it'd be like, you got 150 visits to your contact page this week, right? Your form was only filled out twice, right? Your phone number isn't prominent enough, whatever it is. You start, like, actually trying to understand, because your problem is your phone's not ringing, right?
Right.
Or you're not getting enough leads through the website, right? And just like reinforcing. Don't try and solve a billion problems. Solve the most important one. If your phone's not ringing, what is my role? How can I help? Because I'm going to do the SEO work regardless. It's almost like, see, again, when I could answer it a billion different ways, it's hard to answer it specifically, but like, it's almost like what you're actually providing, in my opinion, if you want to keep a client for a really, really long time, is secondary to what one problem you're trying to solve, right? It's like, I'm doing the SEO work anyway. I'm doing the blog posts anyway. I'm doing the backlinks anyway. I know what function they serve,
Yeah.
right? But if the client doesn't care about the blog post, they just care that they get a result. Why would I waste their time talking about, this volume here and this keyword difficulty there and this traffic? They don't care.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. So it's not that there aren't ways to kind of generally, like, there aren't best practices and that there isn't some method to the madness of SEO. It's that you know those things, you do those things, you set up your framework so that you execute on those things. But when you're connecting your service and all of those processes to your client, you want to do that through like a people first framework, like through the lens of this is their problem that they're trying to solve, this is their goal they're trying to achieve. So it doesn't matter if the pen writes upside down in space, it matters if they can sign their paycheck. Right.
100%. Yeah. There's this, somebody revealed this pyramid to me. I guess it's 2025 now, right? So last year, um, which was one of those things when I actually did a YouTube video on it, that I just published today. Cause I was like, I can't believe I didn't realize this, right? When he said it to me, but I know this is getting really sales focused, but honestly, this is just like how you speak to clients. Like, I would tell clients that I'd be like, hey, just so you know, our strategy isn't any better than any other agency. Like, I would say that. Say our strategy is about on par. The difference you get, and I would also say it's like, because Google gives you the strategy, right? Everyone's just following the recipe. It's called Google guidelines. You can do this work, client. Guess what? You don't have over 10,000 hours of experience or even 10 hours a week to do it. And even if you did, you wouldn't do it well because you don't have the experience, right? So what you're paying for is knowledge. You're paying for like my brain, my fingers, my discernment, and my team's discernment and all that sort of stuff, right? And they get it. I'm like, what do you think you like? I would ask them, what do you think you bought? Well, I bought more rankings. I bought more traffic. No, you didn't. You bought work. You bought work and expertise. That's it. Right. And so, anyways, um, I forget where I was going with it, but
Your
oh, the
triangle
pyramid
or
thing. Yeah.
pyramid.
So it's turning into a sales conversation, but like, I think again, just speak to anyone um, in this with this kind of at top of mind, and whether they're an existing client, you're trying to sell somebody, or even like a good friend, is if you're trying to get them to like be indoctrinated into your thinking or just go along and try and like make it smoother for you guys moving forward, is if you look at the pyramid, there's 4 levels. The bottom to the top, it is harder to part with the further you go up, right? And so at the bottom of the pyramid is money. Everybody, like if you are speaking to someone who is money conscious right off the bat, like if you're getting money conscious vibes in the beginning, maybe even your person who only stayed with you for 3 months, my guess is that was a pretty low budget. Um, I could be wrong, right? But it's always the lowest paying clients that are the highest maintenance. There's a reason they're stuck at the bottom of the pyramid. Parting with money in the scheme of these 4 levels is easy. But if it's hard for that person, it's going to be really hard for you to serve them. Okay. So that's one. Above money is time, right? So at the very least, at a minimum goal, if you are selling SEO services, you are going to have a much stronger statement of, I'm going to save you 20 hours a week to get
Yeah,
your company more visible,
sure.
then I'm going to, you know, it costs $2,000 to get your company more visible, right? Like it's just a stronger argument. Okay. Above time is energy. If you're talking directly to the business owner, the marketing director, the CEO, whatever, that's a person who wants to do other stuff. They don't want to write a blog post. They don't want to do links. They don't want to manage a team of project managers. They don't want to do any of that. They want to work on higher level things. You give them the chance to do that. So you can
Okay.
sell them more energy back, not wasted energy on something they're going to do poorly. Like I have tattoos. If I started tattooing other people, I'd be so frustrated. I can't draw, right? So
Yeah,
I pay someone else
yeah.
because it saves me energy. Yeah. And then at the very, very top, this is kind of like, if you can master this, you will never want for money ever again. I'm currently trying to get there, right? It's a process, is identity. It's the hardest thing to part with. Okay. So if a CEO sees them as a valued leader, and then you're trying to sell them and say, well, you know, you need our service. We're smart. You're dumb. You're just kind of creating division and all that sort of stuff. But if I can sell, like, for instance, my population, the identity I'm selling people is right now, because they're doing everything, they're a chief everything officer. I want to sell them to a visionary leader, which is what they see themselves as, but are wondering why they're not there. And so whether it's religion, politics, orientation, status, whatever, if you can nail down what does this person care most about, it's exactly how I sold that 5K deal to 15K deal. How did I do that? It wasn't the deliverables, because I'm not a salesperson. Like all this is, I'm just learning. It wasn't the deliverables. When they told me that they had more problems and I was reading their body language, because I already knew them, like I don't recommend you do this on, the intro call, but I already knew them. And I was like, hey, can we speak real for a second? Based on everything you're saying to me, it almost seems like this isn't about what you guys want. This is about like making sure that you look good to the president of the company. Am I right? And they immediately just went, ah. So it was a bold move, but that was when I got the sale. That was an identity shift of like, right now it's tough for me to look good to my boss, but you're saying you can help me look like a freaking pro to my boss. Let's do it.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
It's hard. It's not easy, but if you are stuck on money and even time, your agency or your freelance business is always going to feel just kind of clunky. If you can get to like energy and identity conversations, you're a freaking star and you can charge whatever you want.
I like that. I like that. All right. Time for one more truth bomb, one more hard drop, one more hot take before we end the interview. What's your hot take for the new year? Somebody listens to this, you want them to walk away with this. Pressure's
I don't
on.
know. I don't know. Yeah, the pressure is on. Honestly, maybe it's not going to be sexy, but if you something that served me really, really well. And again, I'm really client focused. I will never claim to be the smartest SEO person. Like I have the chops to do it, and I run my own SEO and campaigns and all that sort of stuff. I'm not the most technical. I was always client facing, right? It was I always saw my mission as don't try and like be the best at delivering for the client, be the best at making the client feel like there's no better solution, right? Like showing them that you are best possible advisor, executor, whatever. And when I say me, I mean the agency, right? That their investment in time and money isn't in vain. Like out of 1,100 clients, at least 500 of them, Jeremy, came from other agencies, right? They got burned, but they knew they needed marketing. And so they tried one more time. And I would tell them, I like, hey, I am so glad you're here. 'Cause you just came out of a divorce and that sucks, right? We're gonna be married for a long time. Like, I would just say stuff like that because it's triage, man. Like, you can start an SEO agency by the time this podcast ends and have your website up by the end of the day and sell your first client tomorrow and not have a freaking clue what you're doing, and all you care about is you and not the client, right? So if I were to give one more truth bomb, I would say, if you want to make it something you actually enjoy, stop thinking about you. Stop thinking about the service you provide. Clients don't care. Stop thinking about how cost effective you are. Clients don't care. Stop thinking about what you know and they don't know. Clients don't care. What they care is, do I trust this person? And do I think I get a return on my investment if I trust them for long enough? And so the way I did that was I always, 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 whether I was talking about Google Analytics, a blog post, or just a random email I sent, was always connecting it to what do they care about most? How does this connect to their bottom line? Or how does this connect to them saving time? Or how does this connect to them looking like a higher status individual at the company? And by doing so, they synonymously, it's almost, I don't know if you ever watched The Office, but when Michael's trying to court Donna and he like will show a picture of a sexy guy on the slideshow and then him and then a sexy guy and then him, he's like, she'll associate me with sexy guy. Like literally associate your service as like one of the best investments, period, that they've made. Right. And so the truth bomb, I guess overall is like care about your client and put them before you. It'll be way easier. I'm not saying answer their email at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. Nope, I'm not saying that. I'm saying with proper boundaries and constraints of how you're going to serve them, I would always tell clients exactly how they'll hear from me, when they'll hear from me, in what format they'll hear from me, all that sort of stuff. So with that out of the way, then it was always about them after that.
I like that. Uh, Yeah, definitely go back and take some notes off the transcript for myself for some of my processes. Thanks so much for your time, Colby. Where can people find you? You have materials, you have a website. I know you said you were posting a video today, so where should I link my show notes stuff?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only Colby Wegter on earth. So if you just give that a Google, you'll find this stuff. In terms of if you're a six-figure agency owner and you're working too much or want to get to seven figures or both, then my program is called autonomyagency.com would be the website. And that's the ultimate flex to me. It's not how much money you have in the bank. It's being able to say yes or no to whatever the hell you want, which is what autonomy is. So autonomy agency if you're an agency owner. Otherwise, yeah, check out all my free stuff. I post on LinkedIn every day, Instagram every day, and YouTube a couple times a week.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Colby.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy.